Hey, thanks for checking this out again. Music Talk from the North State. This is my podcast coming to you from Chico area, and I'm here with a really wonderful guest. I'm lucky today. This is Ken Grossman, and he's the owner and founder of Sierra Nevada. You've probably seen those beers, and you should. We're here in the big room, which is one of his wonderful creations here. There's beer steins and distilleries and all of that kind of stuff around us right here. Ken founded this company. 1980 was your first pale ale, and a couple years after that, IPA and that kind of thing. Yep. But here's what's really cool and why I'm talking to Ken. Is, as you know, I'm talking to the hopefuls of the music business, the young folks that want to be part of this and want to believe it's a business and that kind of thing. Sierra Nevada is part of our community and has a reputation here well earned. When you see this room, which we'll pan around a little bit, and you see what kind of quality is and what kind of a stage it is over here, you'll see he cares too. And this is bigger than just sponsoring music or promoting a product. Some businesses will think promoting a product is, why they do it. And that's not wrong. That's absolutely right. But what is this, this symbiotic relationship between a company and a founder and a community and music and so forth? That's why I wanted to talk to Ken. So bring me back. I already said 1980 and that kind of thing.
Well, let's even go back further than that. So I grew up in Southern California, and my dad was actually an aspiring musician, played guitar and made some small records at the time.
Right.
He did end up becoming an attorney, though. Music was his hobby. So I was exposed to some music early on, and then where we lived in the San Fernando Valley was just a few blocks away from the Valley Music Theater, which was a theater in the round at the time.
Right.
Had some great shows, but I saw Buffalo Springfield there and was exposed to a lot of great talent at a pretty early age. I went to a couple Jimi Hendrix concerts,
Did you?
Yep, Pink Floyd. So I was exposed to a lot of music, and friends of mine who were actually sort of at the fringes of music. They were friends with Captain Beefheart. Go to some of those shows, all these great old bands that, that I was exposed to. So music was sort of a thing in our group. All my friends, listened to music, played music, and so early on, sort of had a love for it, and then I moved to Chico in 1972, primarily to get out of Southern California. I was sort of done with the big city and wanted to sort of settle down into a small community, and ended up going to Butte College and then later to Chico State.
So Butte is our local junior college here, and it's obviously been a big part of who we are for quite a long time. But Chico State has been here since I think 1887 or something like that. They're a big part of our community as well. I think they're our largest employer, and you might be right on that top 10 list.
We're certainly, I think, in the top 10. So,
yeah, right.
So anyway, we started the brewery here in 1978. Before that, I had run a homebrew supply store in downtown Chico.
I was going to ask you didn't just jump into a business.
No, I actually started working in bicycle shops. Really got a feel for sort of running a business and how to treat employees and sort of what good looked like when it came to a work environment. And then I ended up starting the homebrew shop in 1976 and ran that for a couple years. I still had to work at a bike shop to make ends meet. We had our first child, Sierra, my daughter, who came before the brewery, and realized I needed to do something bigger, different, in order to have a real livelihood. And so I had the sort of tough decision: do I buy the bike shop I worked in, which was coming up for sale, or do I do something completely different and start a small brewery? By the time I was starting or looking at starting in 1978, it was about the low point of the U.S. brewing industry. So for us, it just seemed like the time was right to be able to sell a small amount of beer compared to the big guys, but to make something distinctive and unique that would create our own niche.
But that's what we do in the music business. If we have to make a niche out of something that is really special and different, in order for us to be adding any value. So business is business in a lot of ways, even if our product is our love and it's a different product entirely. That sounds really familiar to me.
So we were one of 6 breweries that opened up between 1978 and 1982, 6 new small breweries. So that was really the first time since Prohibition a new upstart brewery really, that whole trend was happening again, where breweries were now getting back into business. But if you were to go to a bank and try to borrow money to open a brewery, and they looked at the history of small breweries in America, they would say this is a crazy place to invest your money. Right. Breweries have been closing at a rapid rate. It's a bad investment. So we were unable to borrow any money from many lending institutions. So the money that we did start out with, which was not a lot, was all from family and friends and savings I had. I sold my homebrew shop, and I had been saving money from working in the bike shops, and so all that went into starting up, and we started very, very small, just making 300-gallon batches, only distributing in Chico. And then as we needed to grow, because we realized that our business plan was pretty faulty, we couldn't really survive off the volumes that we originally had thought we could. Everything costs more than you expect, and things break, and all that. That was really unforeseen when we first wrote our business plan. Yeah. So we had to expand, and then we started expanding into the Bay Area, and then up into Oregon and Washington, and then into Colorado.
If people don't know about Sierra Nevada at this point, I'm surprised, and especially in this area, I think you have about half of every tap I've ever seen, and these clubs where I get to play, but also just any restaurant around here. You certainly overcame that. It's pretty obvious.
Today there's about 9,000 breweries in America.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you still got half of these taps everywhere. And I'm not just saying that. I've been around and I've seen it. And I notice businesses.
Yeah, I mean, our industry is highly competitive. I'm sure, as is the music business. We're competing with the biggest, so we're all fighting for that same consumer appeal and hopefully bond with the consumer.
But you're in a community and you've made something out of it. This community really does love your product and who you are. And there's a restaurant downstairs that used to have a stage, from what I understand it. One day a week you'd have the stage rise up and put it right in the restaurant. And that, like I said, that Oktoberfest over here, I couldn't believe how big that was, that you tented the whole huge parking lot, and that place was full. Yeah. And you think polka bands and that kind of thinking, oh, okay, well, there's beer and there's a polka band. They were playing all kinds of contemporary music and entertaining people. It went smooth, without a hitch. The food, the drink, the way coming in and out of there was a seamless business of music.
We've got a great team that puts those on. And you mentioned the music we had in our restaurant. So before I built the big room and really this half of the brewery, when I first built here in 1987, we only had I think 1.7 acres, had less than 2 acres of property, and the whole facility had to fit on that with parking and truck docks and all that. Yeah. So we were pretty shoehorned in, and the facility was quite small. The restaurant back then was about a third the size it is today. But we did want to include music as one of the things that we incorporated into the original restaurant design. And so,
was that background from what you said about Southern California, or what was your motivation? What made you do this? What were you thinking?
Beer and music go well together, and some of those who have been around a long time maybe remember that the Grateful Dead were huge Sierra Nevada fans. Oh, yeah. And we would get these calls from our distributors saying, Grateful Dead is playing in our town this next week. Can you send an extra truckload of beer? Because all the Deadheads would flock to our pale ale back in the late '80s, early '90s. Mm-hmm. And so music was, something that we were really tuned into and were keen on. And even going back to our earliest days, so right when we first started, we would throw these pretty epic parties at the brewery. It wasn't open to the public, it was invite only kind of a thing, but we would always have a whole day of bands and a whole night of bands, and so music was part of our scene.
Was that like Mother Hips and some of the local groups around here at that time?
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is actually pre-Mother Hips probably, when we've had Mother Hips here plenty. Now we would have these pretty epic big parties, and so then when we decided to build the brewery here, we decided we needed to incorporate music as part of what we did. Yeah. And so that goes back to, again, late 80s when we were building this initially. And then
this right here?
No, the restaurant with the, we were open 6 days a week, and we'd have music on the 7th day, and we had speakers that would drop out of the ceiling on electric winches. Yeah. They would come down, and then the platform stage had bass speakers built into underneath the stage, and then we had a light bar that we would mount, and we had all the controls pre-wired in, so we could set up a sound booth and all that. So we did that for quite a few years, probably for nearly 10 until '98 when I built this.
And I'm fortunate enough to have played on that stage besides seeing my students from Thumpasaurus from USC playing on that stage just last month. But 5 years ago, I got to play on that stage. And I was telling you this a little earlier, and I want to put this on camera because it's true. But this is a pro venue, and I've not been in a better pro venue. The Lost on Main's really good. There's got some things that are going on in smaller places, and there's Springfest, and there's some festivals. But this is a high-end venue. You invested.
Well, before we built this, we actually went on a tour and visited a bunch of venues in Berkeley and a few other places. We took our team to go look at, what do we want to do in a venue, and we really wanted the seating to have the stage seating so that there wasn't a bad seat in the house. And so we did put a bit of thought and some money into it when we first built it.
And I understand you've also done the sounds and lights recently to keep them up to a very high level, contemporary kind of quality and that kind of thing. You're investing. My audience, as I said again, is these professional hopefuls, or they're already started. I want you to pay attention, if you want to be in this business, to who does sponsor events and invest in music. And you see a poster that this is sponsored by, and I know you've done some local city things besides all of this kind of thing, but there's going to be someone at that event that represents that sponsor. And there's going to be someone else that's going to be putting on, maybe with a city or a community, or they own the venue and those kinds of things. And these are people you should notice and talk to, because they made a choice to make music part of their business, or to own their business, or to host it. And yes, it's good for their business and product, but I want you to notice who actually pays attention to us, because it is a symbiotic relationship between a business and a business owner and a community and music that makes all of this happen, and we all win from that.
I'll add to that, when we built our North Carolina facility, music was also on our mind, and so there we built a large amphitheater. We can seat almost 1,000 people in a tiered lawn area with a permanent amphitheater. And so we have free acts there every week when the weather permitting. And then we also built a big room back there as well to do indoor music events. So
is it similar to this one?
A little bit bigger, a little bit longer, a little deeper, and not quite as wide, but very similar. And we took our learnings from here and used the knowledge out there to build a really nice venue. So we've got music happening out there actually more often than in Chico.
Is that right?
Yeah. And this had never, even though we were busy and people are having a good time and drinking beer, this was never a money-making operation for us. We lost money pretty much every year.
Really?
Yeah, just staffing and the overhead of the space and the maintenance. It still doesn't make any money. So this is done for community and for the bond with our consumers who enjoy music and enjoy beer and want to do those two things together.
Right.
So for us, it's sort of part of the brand, but it's not necessarily done for profit reasons.
Okay. So but you earn your reputation with a lot of people because of this. I know that they love coming here, either for the restaurant or for the big room or the Oktoberfest and so forth. There's some value, even if it's not direct.
Totally. There's intrinsic value, and our restaurant has never made money.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. But you choose to do it, and I think
we choose to do it again. My son's in charge of the restaurants, and
you have 3 kids. You've mentioned.
I have 3. Yeah, my youngest is a boy, and he's back in North Carolina. But our team did a bit of an exercise and tried to figure out what's the value of connecting with the consumers, so whether it's at a music event, whether it's at our restaurants, and so we tried to put a monetary value that each of our touches with that consumer, as long as we do a good job of satisfying them, both in the service and in the food and in the experience. There's high value there. You can just as easily have a negative value if you do a bad job, if they have bad service, bad food, whatever. So you got to balance that. But we do think there is value in trying to build that connection, and music is a great way to do it with a lot of people.
And you get a loyalty, and you get an experience with other people, have a belief about who you are and what you are. Yeah. You do feel of something, a connection to this business and this community and what you create.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, our industry is very competitive right now, and breweries are selling out and or going out of business at a pretty rapid rate. Right. There's probably 3 to 5 breweries a week now that are closing their doors in the United States. It's challenging, and a lot of the breweries didn't manage through COVID very well either. They weren't set up
a lot
to.
Of businesses don't.
Yeah, they weren't set up to can beer, and if you're a small craft brewery back in the 90s or 2000s, most of your beer was usually sold direct over the counter, to the consumer at a bar, restaurants or other bars or your own brew pub. And all that got shut down during COVID pretty much. So a lot of those breweries didn't have a business model that worked during COVID.
That's a social business, you need people to be able to get together. Yeah. So the music business and your business got hurt,
So thankfully we had canning lines, and we were able to pivot our business, because we lost 20% of our volume overnight. I mean, when our bar business went to zero, which it pretty much did, that was 20% of our business back then.
Right.
And so it went to zero, and we were able, though, to shift into more canning, and so for us, we didn't get hurt too bad. But a lot of other small breweries, and a lot of them were doing music, and that was part of their thing as well. If you can't bring people into your place, you really don't have a...
I felt the same. This is what we had. There's a parallel, because music is a business, and the best money in our business is the touring and the live business. I worked at a big record company kind of thing, and people do make money when they connect, but over 9 out of 10 of our artists that we signed at this huge record label did make their money back financially before any of this, and they really needed the tours, kinds of things, And when you say 20-30% of your business, when Thumpasaurus was over here playing outside this room, they were selling merch. And that's when we do our touring business, 20 to 30% of what we make is from the merchandising kinds of things. So all of these margins make a difference for all of us. It is a parallel reality when you have to run it. And I was also really impressed by you saying you've never made money off the restaurant, you've never made money off of our music venues, but you do it anyway kind of thing. We play a lot of free gigs, and we play a lot of things that are not going to make us money, and we spend more than we make, and that's part of the investment that we make because we believe in it.
I mean, our hope is that we'll be able to break even in these businesses and get the benefit of that community connection. But in reality, it's rare that we actually get to zero.
Marketing, a lot of times marketing is done, they say, for impressions. It's the eyes on the product, and it's the association, and it takes multiple eyes to be on it. And that investment's hard to track, because I was working in a major corporation in Los Angeles with Universal, and if a cost center was not doing well, it's very easy for them to cut the cost center, that kind of thing, and just say, work where it is normal. I'm not just saying that about Universal. This is business.
Yeah. Well, that's one advantage of being family owned and not a part of a large corporation, is we can make those decisions that, even though we know it's not making us any money, we do think there's intrinsic value, and you just have to use your gut, because it's really hard to attach a true value. I mean, you can estimate it, but it's really a feeling that it's the right thing to be doing.
It's it's funny you to keep saying things that feel like you're talking to me in music, because it's a business for us too, and I just keep hearing you, and you're saying the same things we say, So who my audience is, or what's your advice, or what's your thought about that up and coming person in a region? What's your advice for someone coming up in this?
I've been working for over 55 years, and probably a bit over that even. So I've had a lot of jobs, and the one thing I really learned, and I think is part of the success, is that you got to go all in. You've got to make the decision that you're going to make it work, come hell or high water. Stay focused on the goal, but don't give up. I see way too many people who get frustrated because of lack of progress, or they aren't making money, and they throw the towel in before they really explore everything they need to do to make a business successful. So the don't give up. You got to work harder than the next guy. I mean, part of why I think we're successful is that tenacity that we had. There was a lot of lean times, a lot of difficult times, but I had invested every penny I had. I'd borrowed money from my my father and my grandfather, and I wasn't in a position to walk away from that. I went 100% in, and I've done that a number of times over the years. But that's what it takes to really make it work, because it's not easy. And it's hard work, and it's focus and determination, grit. So you got to tough it out and make a go of it. So I'd say that's probably the lesson, that if I could convey anything to somebody, don't give up, stay focused, work hard, keep your eye on the ball. If you do all those things, I think it's almost certain you'll be successful.
Yeah, do what you love and the money follows. Sometimes it's not a direct line, but yep.
And be humble, and attention to detail really does matter too. So whatever you're doing, trying to stay focused on the quality of the experience, the quality of the performance, that connection with your consumer is really important, that you really keep satisfying your audience as the key driver behind what you do. I mean, early on we used to say we make the beer that we want to drink, and we're hoping other people will like it too, and that goes only so far, because you
insert the word music right there and say the same thing, and it only goes so far.
Yeah, because you do need to satisfy an audience if you're going to stay in business. So you do need to listen to what people are saying about what you produce, and whether it's music or beer, and try to stay true to your roots, but on the other hand, be attentive to to your consumers' needs.
I want to thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're a busy guy, and this is for the music business, and then we're in a parallel business. I think we just heard more than I expected, But I think, my friend, thank you.
Thank you.
You mean a lot to us. I appreciate
Good
you.
luck with your program, and look forward to hearing
Yep.
other podcasts you got.
Yep, I'll share.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thanks for checking out Music Talk from the North State. See you next time.